Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day to all. Welcome to my class. I'm Dr. Fahim. So for today's lecture, we're going to cover on interface design and requirement traceability. Okay, just a recap on our last lesson. Requirement engineering is a process to elicitate, specify and validate all the requirements. So for that reason, it's divided into three processes, which are elicitation, specification and validation. Inside our class, we learn there are the many elicitation techniques can be used to gather the requirements from the sources, which are existing system, existing documents, and also all these things can be obtained from the stakeholders. So our stakeholders consist of three, which are the ones who are using the system, the ones who are paying for it, and also the ones who are developing it, or also known as project development team. And that already covered in the last class, our previous class. And then we are moving towards requirement specification. Okay, in this process, the aim is to gather all the informations obtained from the previous process, which is requirement elicitation, and producing a document called as software requirement specification. Software requirement specification is a document that illustrates and explains the functional and non-functional requirement, the flow of the modules, the design of the system, the interfaces, and also the traceability, so that all these elements can be used in the next phase for software development. So therefore, during the previous class, we already learned what is function requirement, non-functional requirement. We already learned use case diagram and description. We also already learned sequence diagram, class diagram, and the next topic which are we going to cover is the interface design and traceability. Functional requirement is a requirement that consists of the system's function. The non-functional covers the environment of the system. Okay, use case, in which it has its own diagram, depicts all the modules of the system, and we have already shown how to describe these use cases. And through this use cases description, we formulate the sequence diagram, in which we already determine the objects, which are the user, the modules, the layers, and we also determine the functions related to the sequence. Therefore, this will be the functions that we're going to develop in the system. And then we also learn how to convert this sequence diagram into class diagram, that means objects, which consists of three mediums. The first is the name of the object, the second is the functions, the third one is the attribute. And then for today's class, we're going to learn the interface design and traceability, requirement traceability. Okay, interface design. What is interface? If ourselves we as a human, we have our own interface, in which the first time I'm seeing you, whatever I'm seeing you at the front is the interface of you. In the case of a system, we call it as a graphical user interface. Okay, so why we need interface for systems? It's actually a medium between human to interact with the machine. That means when we see the interface, we want to add some input inside, and then this input will be sent to the system to be processed based on certain algorithms, functions, and the output will be sent back to the user, displaying it on the graphical user interface. So in our SRS document, the interface is actually showing the positional of all the attributes used in a system. Okay, for instance, if you have your login page, okay, you already know the attribute that you need there is first the username, the password, okay, and then you need the submit button. That means you need to click the submit button so that you can send the information to the machine at the back end, process it, and then send back to the user as the output. So when it comes to the interface, it indirectly confirms the use of the attributes. Okay, so all the attributes you listed before, you can cross check. That means the listed in the context diagram is you can cross check with the ones that with the interface. That means if you are inputting username and password to the system, so that means in the context diagram you have the user. Let's say you have 3 users, and then you need to have the details to log in, which is the username and password. So indirectly you know from the context diagram and the interface it's related. Okay, and then have to understand this is design, not the actual interface. That means you're proposing a design, a suitable design for the interface of the system. So therefore the changes might occur during the development. So you are proposing a design for the developers to be used for development. So changes might occur when during the development, therefore the design can be updated. And flow of interface. What is flow of interface? The flow of interface is very simple. I give you an example. Okay, let's say a system's interface. The first starting interface is the login page. Okay, so from the login page, after a successful login, you will enter to the main page. So therefore, the sequence after the login page is the main page. So it will show, it defines the relation of an interface to another interface. This is to make sure the right interface is connected during the development. So in order to depict this, we call something as dialog diagram, which you already learned in systems analysis design class. So dialog diagram can be used to trace the interface movement. Okay, how to into the design interface? Of course, you need some tools to help you, and nowadays there are variety number of tools, or many number of tools. So design can be depicted in 2 ways, which are in the form of sketch and also in the form of colored interface. Okay, what do you mean by sketch? Okay, sketch can be said as something as black and white drawing similar to a house plan. That means in a house blueprint, from the top you can see all the room measurement, everything, but there's no color inside it. It's just a drawing. Okay, and there's another one, we call it as colored interface. Okay, it's far more advanced compared to the sketch, in which it shows the interface with proposed color scheme. So which one is better? Is it the sketch or is it the color interface? In my opinion, it depends on the system that you do, but in a way it's better to have sketch rather than a color interface, because color interface might change. You might propose some colors for the interface based on your opinion. Unless there's a requirement stating the color of the interface, then you should use the color interface. Else, just use the sketch if the color is not being mentioned. That's far more easier. But my preference is always sketch, because the aim of the interface design is to show the position, to locate the position of the text boxes, the buttons, the titles in the interface. So to have a visualization of the interface, so that, oh, this is the mobile application that I want to develop. This is how it looks. Okay, color can be determined later, but the position is important. Okay, talking about tools, okay, there are many tools can be used for interface design. The easiest might be Paint or Paint 3D, in which we already in, if you're using a mobile OS platform, you can actually easily access from the start button. It's a very simple tool that consists of some drawings, and which you can use to draw the interface. Or you can use some advanced tools such as Adobe XD or also Microsoft Word. Adobe XD is a tool from Adobe which is only specifically used to design the interface with some beautiful color schemes. Moving on to requirement traceability. So what's the purpose of requirement traceability? The purpose is to trace the requirement throughout the requirement engineering process, and the reason is to ensure all the requirements has been fulfilled in terms of its design, and is able to trace the requirement without hassle. That means what's the story here is, okay, you have a set of requirements, and we're talking about requirements, function requirements. We have a lot of modules and we have a lot of requirements. So how we want to make sure all these requirements has been met in terms of the design? Of course, you have to need to do some tracing. That means this tracing is to make sure that every function requirement that has been stated, okay, is being mentioned inside the three diagrams, which are use case diagram followed by the sequence and also class diagram. If you don't fulfill these requirements, that means you partially completed the requirement engineering process for the system. Okay, and this traceability is compulsory for function requirement. Why? Because we are focusing on developing the system, and we develop systems only using the functional requirement. And this requirement traceability can be shown in the form of table, in which brings us to the next slide. Okay, this is an example of a requirement traceability table. Okay, requirement traceability table, there are certain elements that you need to consider first. First is the requirement traceability ID. The reason is, if you say this ID, you will know to which requirement ID is referred to which use case ID is referred to which sequence diagram ID is referred to, and to which class diagram ID is referred to. So this will make sure all the requirement has been met. And then furthermore, in a SRS document, which there's a lot of diagrams such as use cases, sequence, and also class diagram, this will enable us to go to the specific requirements, use case, sequence, and class diagram. For instance, let's say we go to the first traceable ID, which is IMS 2020 Inventory Management System 2020, MO01, which is related to module 1, and requirement traceability 1. If we mention this requirement traceability, it's related to the first module of the system from the function requirement number 1, in which that function requirement is related to the use case description 01, and then that use case UD01 is related to the sequence diagram 01, and also this SD01 is related to the class diagram 01, in which if let's say you want to do the traceability, we can use this traceability to trace the diagrams for the stated requirement ID. And that's all for this class today. I hope you already understood what is interface design, what are the tools can be used for the interface design, how we trace the flow of the interface design, the tools which is Paint 3D, Microsoft Word, and also Adobe XD, in which can be used based on the purpose of our interface design. And also we also learn on the requirement traceability, in which why we need the requirement traceability, and how we do the requirement traceability, in which I already explained to you how to do it inside a table. So thank you for listening. Hope to see you again. Bye.